Hey everyone, I want to start with a disclaimer. This is not a performance. I'm making this video for other keyboardists and also for fans of Vangelis's Blade Runner soundtrack. So if that's not you, you won't get very far in this and you probably will want to watch something else. But if you're a fan or you're a keyboardist, you'll find that knowing a little bit about the sounds and where they are might make it more enjoyable, especially if you're watching my cover of end titles. You can kind of play along in your head because it's not a very hard piece. Probably the hardest thing about it are some of the big stretches. I do some of these. But other than some of the stretches, it's a pretty easy piece to play. I didn't have to do many takes of it. It was a really challenging piece to work up, though, to figure everything out, to program the sounds, which I really enjoy, and where they're going to be. I enjoy all that stuff. But to figure out like what beat are of the measure are these accents, and then to eventually try to memorize the whole thing. Memorizing it was really a challenge for me. Took quite a while, but great fun. So this kind of sound is my attempt at the classic Vangelis Blade Runner sound that so many people have done. There's just countless versions of this on YouTube, and this was my attempt. And I did most of the work for this patch back when I was doing my cover for Five Circles from Chariots of Fire, which on many days is my favorite cover I've ever done. I just love that music, and I make better use of it in that video than I do in this one. But spent a lot of time with that back then. When I make these sounds in the Prophet, I'm starting with a voice component modulation template in most cases. VCM templates are made by a brilliant programmer named Jason Cooper. He goes by the name of Creative Spiral, and if you have a Rev 2 and you don't have his patches, you definitely want to check them out. What he's done for us as owners of these users of Rev 2s is hard to overstate. He's given us something like a vintage knob like you find in the new Prophet 5 and Prophet 10. It's not as easy to use as that, but it does a lot of the same things. So I start with one of his templates, which again he generously gives away for free. You should buy his patches. And then I work and work and work the patch, and then I usually double the patch, layer it, and then I use DC modulation and panning to pan it left and right, and then I tweak some more. And many times I will do a similar patch in both units of the Prophet Rev 2 and have those pan left and right, or mostly left and right. So I do that with most of the sounds that I use in here, that one, as well as the string sounds that I'll show you in a bit. So we start with that sound. Pretty early on, you hear this, it's called Robot's Ice Pick. I didn't make this sound. This is like a ring modulator sound, and this is by a great programmer named Rahim, and he has two packages, and the name of them I think is My Famous Sounds for Prophet Rev 2, I think is the title of those packs. They both have a lot of great Vangelis patches in, and it's kind of ironic that the first one that I'm actually using, I don't think he designed this to be a Vangelis patch, but it worked really well there. I also use Rahim's end titles sequencer patch. So he is one that the background sequencer, which I adapted. He kind of had both oscillators tuned to the same pitch, and I dropped one of them down an octave, and I put that on one side, and then the original on another side. EQ'd one, tweaked them a bit. And there's panning and so forth involved. Again, great guy and very helpful. I've emailed him various times, and he's really a generous person. I pan left and right. I learned that from another great musician who goes by the name of Sacred Synthesis, and he makes beautiful music on his YouTube channel. You should check it out, and that's where I learned how this idea of panning things and how much magic you can find if you try to pan things like that. So then we go to, since I'm up here, I'll stay here. Go to the, I end up switching back and forth between that brassy patch and this, which is a split. The split has, if I play just one side, this is like, I call this power brass. And then on the other side, I have one of my mini Moog patches, which leads, which I wanted to, if I let go of it, sort of have a dive bomb down, and if you lean into it, have the pitch go up and down a bit as well. So you can. So that's fun. I didn't get to do as much of the stereo image with those because that was a split. Let's see, we'll come down here. This is, we have some explosions up here. And then we have these analog sounds, which is just, I made a very simple analog kind of sound. And then we have the timpani. That's about an octave, and then we have harp going all the way down to here. Very pretty harp. But of course, the coolest thing that you can do with a harp is the thing that any great ape can do, which is you just go. So that's fun. Then we get down here below that, and I have some piano octaves, and I was running out of keyboard space again, so if you turn one of these off, you get a single note, and I'm blending the two together, and I also added release so that I don't have to use the sustain pedal, so I can just sort of hit that and then move on to other things. Also down here I have the snare drum, and by the way, the snare drum, I tried in the beginning, I was going to try to play as much of it as I could, so I'm going to play, I'm going to try to play all the snare drums, all the timpanis, everything, and of course at some point there's just so much going on that unless you're using foot pedals and stuff, it's pretty tough to hit it all. So I did some overdubbing, especially in the middle bridge section. And maybe I'll mention that now. The bridge section, I added some low end stuff, and I used a patch that I'm rather proud of. This is a sound I tried to make of the Yamaha GX1, the mighty GX1 that Keith Emerson used. So let's see, this is like that brass patch that he used with that. Not playing that very cleanly, but I use that for some of the lower sections. That's also the patch that that trombone patch that John Paul Jones used. Very fun. So I used that to layer in. I added a little bit of bass to try to fill out the bass, the low section as well. So where were we? Again, I was saying that I was, oh, in that midsection, I also, you'll see me reach down and I turn off the harp. I push two buttons. One turns off the harp and turns on the choir. And then turn it off again. In running out of keyboards, at some point I remembered that I have this Dave Smith Tetra. This is the same oscillator and filter, the Doug Curtis filter and chips that were used in a lot of the Sequentials equipment. And so I remembered that there's a push button on here. So I start with when Vangelis did these laser beams, it was on the Prophet 5 or a Prophet 10. And the filter was tracking the keyboard, so the higher up you play, the brighter the filter, and then when he would play lower, less filter, darker. So you can push this button and hold it as long as you want, and then when you release it, and then you see me flick the knob, and I'm going back to an earlier one, which is a bit lower, less filter. So you can hit around with that. That's kind of fun. And again, save me a keyboard. I was thinking I might have to borrow one. Speaking of which, I borrowed this keyboard. This is not mine, and you've seen this in a lot of my videos. I've had this for a long time, and it's my friend John, who you may have seen. He plays drums. He's like my go-to drummer, so he's very generous. Has let me borrow this. I need to get it back to him. So over here we have we have this, yeah, let me mention this. This is the beginning. We have this. I adapted that from a sound that's very much like the THX production company that George Lucas founded and that we hear at a lot of the beginning of a lot of movies. So that's fun. What else? The drums in the background, there's two tracks. One is a simple bass drum and hi-hat, and then the other one is what I think of as like a typewriter. And that, for me, that's tricky because I'm not that into sequencers and drum machines and stuff. So I used the sequencer from the Prophet Rev 2 to drive the rather impressive drum sounds that are available on the Yamaha Montage. And I think that brings us to the string sound. I think I hit most of the other sounds. String sound again, I'm starting with a VCM template, and I'm making the sound very much like the string ensemble sound that's a preset in the Rev 2, which is a string I really love. Of course, I play with the cutoff, the brightness. I play with the attack and the release in particular of the filter and the amplifier to make it suit the piece. But I use that string a lot, and again, I'm layering it and then panning them side to side, tweaking them a little bit to make it a bigger sound. Really lovely sound, huh? Well, there you are. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, thanks for watching.